Hey Flosstube, this is Kim. I'm back again with another Flosstube update. This is video number 40. It is the 28th of October, 2019, and what a day. Excuse my appearance. I have winter hat hair and I'm kind of warm and sweating because I just spent an hour thawing out the sump pump drain hose from outside because it got down to about 19 degrees outside last night and the sump pump wasn't running often enough to keep the water flowing, and it froze. And then of course it still tried to run, so it split a part of the hose, so I had to take out a part of the hose and thaw out the rest. And if you look at my Instagram stories, I'll probably put up a picture of some of the ice that I got out of the hose. About 50 feet of hose. But I'm going to try to get my video done really quick. I have about half an hour before I need to go pick up my oldest daughter from school. It is the last week before winter busing starts. Even though the school is on base and only takes us about 8 minutes to walk there, so like less than half a mile. During the winter, from November through I think mid-March, they have a contract for buses on base because negative 50-degree wind chill is just too cold to have kids walking around even just for 8 minutes outside. I think they go outside for recess up until negative 20 wind chill, something like that, where other parts of the country will like cancel school. Well, they just cancel recess. So it's getting cold outside, but let's talk about stitching. So last week in the School of Magical Stitches and Literature, we went to the cave to retrieve the necklace Horcrux with Professor Dumbledore, and so all our tasks were in relation to that. For one of the tasks was Sectum Sempra, where Harry tried to use that jinx or curse to defeat the Inferi, and you had to work on a piece that could be cut apart into pieces, but is in actuality one piece. 200 stitches per task. I worked on Haunted Mansion Stretch Portraits by Good Morning Maui on Etsy, and 200 was just enough. Let's see. I filled in the dark green and this dark gray. This is a tombstone that's sitting sideways, and then the dark gray features of the person on the tombstone. So that was enough for 200 stitches. Just a little bit. And then the bonus question was to work on a piece that actually had a necklace on it. And I told you I was going to work on Friends Forever by Ann Stokes because she is wearing a choker type necklace. Because this is 10 stitches, I did 400. And again, I'm doing this piece. Let me see how I folded it. Cross country by color per page. So it'd be kind of hard to see. I did restrict my work into, this curtain section in the bottom of the dragon. So there's 400 more 10 stitches on that section. And then the rest of my homework was on Trick or Treat, which is my 90-day piece for full coverage phonetics. So I'll show you that in a minute. I spent Friday, Saturday, and Sunday working on Big Red Ship of Life for my monthly rotation on it. This is what it looks like. And again, I'm doing one page every 3 months for the 4 years that we're here in North Dakota. It was a really busy weekend with me and the girls, with my husband gone, so I didn't get as much done as I wanted. However, it's still 3 days worth of work on it, which is what I normally put into it. So last you saw this, I had already started page 4. What I did these 3 days is I did all of this border going down. I filled in all the wave, what I call the wave border, and then I started on the big border on the top. So 3 days to do that. I'll have November and December to finish this page before I go to the next row for 2020. And that's the full width of the piece. This is on 28 count Mushroom Even Weave by MCG Textiles. using DMC 3808. And then my 90-day piece that I said, Trick or Treat by Randall Spangler, doing this extreme cross country, all the black. And I am last week, focus. Last week I was starting on this evergreen hedge or tree right here, so I can finish that part, and am now starting on the very bottom of the gargoyle on top of the cobblestone fence post. So there's the evergreen tree, and then right here is where the gargoyle is going to sit. I still have more to fill in here where the railing on the house will be up here. So, but once I did this, I came down and did these few stitches, which brought me over to the fence post. So that's where I was working. Now, this week in the school is all about remembering Dumbledore, and we have to actually do a spell out of his name, where you use the title of designs, the actual designer, and any items in the piece to spell out Dumbledore. The only thing that really doesn't count is colors of floss and fabric. But like if you have a sampler that has an alphabet on it, you're golden. You can use one piece for all 10 letters because it's got an alphabet on it. If you have a piece that has words, you can only use the first letter of each word to represent one of the letters in Dumbledore. There are bonus points if you can get all 10 letters out of one whip. I think that's 20 bonus points. There's 10 bonus points if you have to use 2 whips. And there's 5 bonus points if you have to use 3 whips. No bonus points if you use more than 3 whips. So of course, to help your house, you're trying to use as few number of whips as you can. And I managed to figure out Dumbledore using Trick or Treat only. Let me show you the design again as I talk you through it. So for D, and you can use the same item for both D's and E's, that, you know, because there's 2 of them, as long as you do a separate set of stitches. So there's a door and dragons. U, the kids are going upstairs. You can use, you know, an action that's happening in your piece. M, there's a moon. B, there are bats. L, there are leaves. E, there's evergreen trees. And then D again, the door and the dragons. O, I think I used observing. The dragons and the cat and the witch are all observing the trick-or-treaters. R for Randall Spangler, and then E, of course, for the evergreen trees. So I'm using this for all 10 letters, but it's 10 stitch, so that means I have to double my stitches. So instead of 100 stitches per letter, I have to do 210 stitches per letter, which means 2,000 stitches on this piece for homework. Usually at the end of a year at Hogwarts, if the week doesn't go through Sunday, it's a shorter week. However, this week we are proceeding into year 7 at Hogwarts, and we will continue this homework for the entire week. But of course, I still want to get it done earlier. If I buckle down, I usually work on this at night in the 3 hours I have to myself after my kids go to bed, before I go to bed. And if I buckle down, I can get 810 stitches done in those 3 hours. So I can get this done in 3 nights, less than 3 nights if I need to. So I'll get working on this piece. And we'll see more of the gargoyle and the railing on the front porch. And let's see. Since I'm working on that usually at night because of the size, and, I really don't like working on a huge piece when I'm constantly getting up and down to help the girls with things or going to get kids from school. I'm going to be working on other things during the day. Well, one thing I wanted to work on last week that I didn't get to is the bookmark for my oldest daughter. She has since finished her second chapter book now. She finished that on, was it early Sunday morning, I believe? Either late Saturday, early Sunday morning. But I didn't pick up the bookmark until this morning, and I put in 100 stitches so far on it. So just to show you, I did more on her hair. I haven't filled in the rest of the golds and browns yet, just because I was trying to color complete to work more on her hair. So I might have to, I don't know if I have enough room to keep it on the Q-snap and do all of her hair, or if I'll have to do some of the stitching in hand. But I hope to finish that this week. Other things I might work on, let's see, Hogwarts travel poster. Did I even show that to you? Where'd it go? There it is. It went hiding. I worked on this last week too, for the Aguamenti task and trusting the chart. So I did 810 stitches on this one. It did not see me to a finish. I still have plenty left to do. So I might work on this more this week. Pretty much what I did is I just worked on the cliffs down here. So I still have, I think it was just cliffs down here. I'm bringing them over. So I have a little bit more of this little building down by the lake, and then filling all of this in. So I might work on that this week. I'll work on the bookmark. I might work on Friendship Compass, which is the other piece I want to finish this year. Pretty Little Paris. If I get both Hogwarts and Friendship Compass done, then my next piece to try to focus to finish before the end of 2019 will be Pretty Little Paris. So I might work on that one this week. We'll have to see how much time I have. Let's see. And it's only been 12 minutes. I have time to talk. Oh, I know what I forgot. I forgot to grab my Halloween stuff. I'm going to remember to press pause this time. Okay. I went and I grabbed my last 3 Halloween items. Halloween decor items, which includes the trick-or-treat bags that I made for my girls. This first one is for my oldest daughter. I bought one of those canvas bags from the sewing, stitchable items aisle, probably at Joann's, and I used waste canvas, tacked that on, and then stitched the word treats. This is using a Halloween alphabet by Shannon Christine Designs. I believe it first appeared in a magazine, but I've known Shannon for quite a while, just from a message board, cross-stitch message board that I used to participate in quite often. And once she saw what I was doing, she was kind enough, like the T first came with the black cat. And so once she knew that I was spelling out treats, she recharted her T both in different colors and different motifs to go with it, and sent me 3 more options to pick from. So I wouldn't have 2 black cats. I could have one of the other motifs that were with the other letters, which I probably would have figured out had she not offered it. But that was really nice of her. So I used the waste canvas, and it worked out with this. I did use glow-in-the-dark floss for all the stars, which is really cool. And the stitches aren't dense enough. There's not a lot of them, so it was easier to pull out the pieces of the waste canvas. And then when it came time, daughter number 2 was born, and I knew I had a couple of years at least before she had to, or before she was ready for trick-or-treating. So I stole someone's idea to stitch Ghostly Mandala by Ink Circles in reverse. So instead of using black floss on white fabric, I stitched on black fabric using white floss. It was fun, except for the fact that I chose 32 count linen, black linen of some sort. So that was hard on the eyes. And then, like, I gave the piece to my mom because she's a better seamstress, and I was thinking, you know, picking out some really cool Halloween fabrics and things to make it into a trick-or-treat bag. But my mom, being smart and knowing how my girls fight over things and are very strong-willed, she decided to make a bag exactly like the other one. Had I known, I could have just bought another of these same bags and she could have sewn the piece on it. But she used this as a template and tried to get, you know, some fabric that was exactly the same. It's not as stiff as the bag that I sewed treats on, but and then she just used some Halloween ribbon and stitched that piece on the bag so that it's not like, you can see it's actually stitched on there. It's not pieced together like a quilt. So she made the bag first and then stitched the design on top of it. So it's the exact same dimensions and everything. So a fun trick-or-treat bag. Yes, it could be more, you know, more Halloween-y, if you will. But seeing as my other daughter has a plain bag as well, they go well together. And it's sturdy fabric. So those are their trick-or-treat bags. And then the only Halloween piece I have left to show you, this is a Design Works kit of a Joan Elliott witch. It's stitched on Ada. Some of you might cringe because I did carry my floss cross country between all these parts. You can see it. You can see the purple also going cross country behind the fabric from the swirls. This is one of my early pieces. But it's a cute little piece. This was framed in Bossier City at Knots and Needles from Linda. So another really cool frame that's very fitting for the piece. Just a fun piece that I grabbed from a craft store as a break from what I was working on, which I think was Fjord Ponies by Ink Circles, which is at my mother-in-law's house. So I can't show you a picture of that one. But that's a fun piece. Okay. My husband did arrive safely at his deployed location. That's all the stitching, if that's all you want to stick around for. The rest of it is Air Force / military related. So he did arrive safely. It did take him nearly 72 hours to get there. There was a delay for a broke airplane. So he flew commercially to Europe. He had some genuine Wiener Schnitzel and then had to wait around a base there to get his final flight from Europe to the Middle East. He arrived there safely. The only good thing about that delay is it helped him get his body to start adjust to the time change. So I think he's like 9 hours different. I don't even keep track because I keep a widget on my phone that tells me exactly what time it is where he's at, so I don't have to constantly do the math and figure it out. So he got there safely. He's already started his job. He's had some interesting days, and I'm sure I'll probably be able to tell some stories about different things that he's done or things that have happened after they happen throughout the 6 months that he'll be gone. If you guys don't mind, you can always tell me if you don't want military stories, but I think they're kind of cool, and some people really were interested in my story last week of how the fighter jets get from the stateside to deploy location. So I have another story for you. Hold on, let me see if I can find something real quick. Another pause. Okay, I was trying to find a picture, but it's not real close to hand. I'd have to dig longer, and I don't have time to do that. Julie of Stitching at the Cabin asked me if I have ever ridden in a fighter jet, and the answer is yes. I have had an incentive ride in an F-16. Now, I had this back when I was the summer between my sophomore and junior year of college. The ROTC detachment that I went through at Michigan State, they gave their top sophomore cadet an incentive ride every single year. So, one incentive ride every single year the following summer as an incentive for the top cadet in that sophomore class. Because with ROTC, you can try out ROTC for your freshman and sophomore year without a commitment. Now, as soon as you start accepting money in the form of a scholarship for ROTC, then that commits you. But you can, there's a fly in here. You can do 2 years of ROTC without committing, so you can try it out and see if you like it. Well, I tried it out 1 year, and then after my freshman year, they offered me a 3-year scholarship. So therefore, I had to commit, and I had to declare my major, because my freshman year, I was undecided. So, but the scholarship was for a non-technical degree. So I couldn't choose engineering or, anything technical. So as you know, I majored in French. That counted as a non-technical degree. So my sophomore year, I was a committed cadet. I had signed my name for active duty years of service, for inactive years of reserve, and I was the top cadet at our detachment for the year. And the Michigan Air National Guard in Selfridge, Michigan, they have F-16s, which are the C models usually, but they have one D model, which is the 2-seater. An F-16 usually only has a pilot. So that's why the Michigan State detachment was able to offer incentive rides, is because it was local. It was the, Air National Guard thing that they, had a relationship with the Guard there. But the summer between my sophomore and junior year is when I had to go study abroad so that I would still graduate in 4 years according to the Michigan State program for a French degree. So I wasn't going to field training, which is the officer version of boot camp, and I couldn't get the incentive ride then as well. And then the D model jet at Selfridge was at depot for maintenance, which is what happens to every single aircraft in the Air Force inventory. Every few years, they go to, there's 3 bases in the United States that are depots where they tear apart the airplane more thoroughly than anywhere else and do some inspections, structural type things. They can do modifications and things. Excuse me. And so the D model was there. So then my flight was delayed again for that. And finally, I believe it was the winter of my junior year where I could have my ride. Winter in Michigan. And of course, my husband and I were already engaged at that point, though we were still in school. And also my friend and my parents came with us to Selfridge for my incentive ride. And it was winter. It was icy. My pilot's name was Major Champagne, and his call sign was Bubbles. So that was pretty cool. He told me ahead of time, have a banana for breakfast, because usually bananas taste the same coming back up as they do going down, which was good advice because it's very true. And we ended up only pulling 4 G's because that was enough for me, and I did end up tasting my banana a second time. But I think most of it was because in order to get up to speed, because we actually did break the sound barrier, we were doing one of these things. Up and down, up and down, up, and letting gravity help us get to that speed, because we didn't want to just go into full afterburner, and because that can disrupt the people living around you. So I had, you know, a couple minutes of stick time controlling the F-16. I went faster than the speed of sound for a short amount of time, and I pulled 4Gs and tasted my breakfast again. But it was very cool. I had a lot of fun. The pilot tried to scare me a lot because as he was doing all his pre-flight stuff, starting up the engines, checking all the systems, he told me, don't forget to remind me to turn on the de-icing. For all the air probes and things, they have a heater system so that no ice forms on it, and then the sensors can read correctly. I was so nervous that something bad was going to happen that I kept like telling him every few minutes, "Are you supposed to turn it on now? Are you supposed to turn it on now?" So it was funny. It was fun. We had a good time. My family enjoyed watching me and, you know, seeing me kind of struggle to get out with, you know, being pale. So that was my incentive ride. And throughout my 7.5 years of active duty, we actually we nominated a bunch of our maintainers, because it's a really cool thing to give a maintainer who, you know, fixes this aircraft and constantly sends pilots and the other air crew out on them. It's quite a reward to actually be able to get a ride. So it's a great incentive and reward for good work. So there's my story for today. I'll see you guys next week. I gotta go get my daughter now. Happy stitching, everybody, and stay warm if you're in the cold parts of the country. Bye.